Well, hello everyone, and welcome to your employment law Q&A on Wednesday, June the 28th. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name, of course, is Lior Samfiru. I'm the employment lawyer. You know me, you've seen me before, you've heard me talk about employment law. I'm going to do that again today. Of course, I'm one of the founding partners of Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. You can find us in Ontario, in BC, and in Alberta. So if you're in one of those provinces, gosh, you're in the right place right now to learn about employment law, to learn about workplace rights, to learn about what to do if you're facing a workplace problem. This is a live session here. It's a Q&A session. You provide the Q, I provide the A, and you walk away with the answers that you need. So if you're wondering about what to do if you're facing a workplace dilemma, if your boss gave you an ultimatum, if your job is no longer available to you, if you have to go off on a leave, can you go off? When should you go off? You get the idea. If it touches on employment law, if it touches on work, if it touches on the relationship between you and your boss, this is the right time. This is the right place to ask a question and get myself, Lior Samfiru, to give you an answer here so that you walk away with that very, very important knowledge. But right now, I am live, and I'm going to give you some other contact information before we get started today. During this podcast here, or the broadcast, I should say, you may hear me say, yeah, you want to reach out to me. Well, to reach out to me off air, very easy to do. All you have to do is go to employmentlawyer.ca. You see that on the screen right now, employmentlawyer.ca. Why do you go there? Well, two reasons. Number one is you can learn a lot more about employment law, tons of information there. Beyond that, of course, all the contact info is there. You can phone numbers, email addresses, they're all there at employmentlawyer.ca. You can reach me and my team through that site. Very, very easy to do, and I encourage you to do that. I can answer some questions here, but I can't actually roll up my sleeves and get to work to help you on this live stream. To do that, you got to reach out to me by phone or email, and you do that through employmentlawyer.ca. Again, I'm Lior Samfiru, the employment lawyer with Samfiru Tumarkin LLP, live for you, with you right now, at your service. And I am here to answer questions. I'm going to start answering questions right now. Ask yours. You have time. You have a computer in front of you, so ask the question that you want to get an answer to. First question today comes from Michelle. Michelle says, after 18 months, my boss wants me to sign a new contract. I took a look, and it mentions my payment structure is going to change with now commissions, with new, presumably, commission inclusions. Do I have to agree to this? Well, no. First of all, your employer can never make you sign a new contract. And by the way, it's always a bad idea to sign a new contract. Even if it looks like it's okay, even if it looks like nothing is changing, I assure you, if your employer is going through the trouble to put a new employment agreement, it's not a good thing for you. There's going to be other terms different than your compensation or vacation or hours of work that can be problematic, terms that limit your future severance, terms that give the company the right to make changes to your job. So be very, very careful. Never just sign that agreement, let me see it. But to your specific situation, if your compensation structure is changing, you don't have to accept it. So you can say no. So here's what happens if you say no. Either the company backs off and leaves you be, that's great, or the company says, well, too bad, we're going to do it anyway. We don't care if you sign. Well, if they do it anyway, that could be a constructive dismissal. You can potentially treat that as a termination. Your employer can't just do whatever they want. And certainly when it comes to your compensation, that compensation structure is sacred. Your employer can't just say, well, you used to be commissions, now we're going to take away commissions. Or you used to be salary, now we're going to take some of the salary, add commissions. Changing that structure is a big deal. Constructive dismissal. So if you're in that situation where your employer is imposing those changes on you, give me a call. All right, let's talk about it. Let's make sure that you know what to do. Let's make sure that you can pursue constructive dismissal if that's what you want to do. So thank you for that question, Michelle. Excellent question. Right now, you see how easy it is? I'm live. You're live. You can ask your question of me right now. You can get the answers. My name is Lior Samfiru, the employment lawyer, live for you doing a Q&A session on employment law. I'm going to continue answering questions. Donna has our next question. Donna says, the company I have worked for 4 years is dissolving. Okay, you haven't asked a question, Donna, so I'm not sure exactly what information you're seeking. If you're going to lose your job, you're going to be owed severance. Call it dissolving, calling it going out of business, calling it winding down, whatever you want to call it. If you lose your job, unless the company is in formal bankruptcy proceedings, you're owed severance. And again, after 4 years, depending on your age and the type of job that you had, you could easily be looking at 6 months severance. Okay, it could be even more than that. Okay, and Donna just has a follow-up. They've sent me paperwork 14 days prior to my last day of employment, but has offered 4 weeks of working notice. Well, at the end of the day, don't worry about that discrepancy. What matters is you're owed 6 months severance. Okay, so you need to call us, because after 4 years, again, it could be even more depending on a specific job you're doing and your age. So probably right around 6 months. So whether you got 14 days or 4 weeks, you're still owed a lot more than that, a lot more. So Donna, the next step is to call me at the office or to email. To do that, employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. Now, in Donna's situation, she's been provided some notice. We call that working notice, a working notice of termination. That means that her employer is saying, you're not gone today. We're giving you notice today that your employment's going to end a few weeks from now. That notice, those number of weeks that you get as notice, do count towards your severance. So as an example, if you're owed 6 months severance and your employer gave you 1 month's notice, well, then that 1 month counts towards the 6 months, meaning that the employer has to pay you the difference, another 5 months in that example. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. But your employer can give you notice, and that counts towards your severance, but chances are you may be owed a lot more at the end of it. Keeping in mind, of course, very important to remember that in the vast majority of cases, in over 90% of cases, okay, the amount of severance that someone is offered is a lot less than the severance that they're actually owed. Okay, so very important you keep in mind. So if you're wondering, well, is my severance good or not? Just remember that statistic. I can tell you without even looking at your paperwork that 90% chance, 90, and it's probably even higher than that, but 90% chance that you're owed much more than what you've been offered. That's just the way that this works. All right, great question so far. Let's continue asking them. You see that little box on the screen. Type in your question, hit enter. I'll see it, I'll read it, and I'll answer it. Again, I'm Lior Samfiru, employment lawyer with Samfiru, Tumarkin, LLP. And right now I'm live answering your questions. Let me continue with Trina. Trina asks, I informed my employer about retiring a few months from now. My boss requested I stay on after that. They later informed me that I could actually leave earlier as they had found my replacement. Should I take them up on this? Is that being let go or still a resignation? So, well, in terms of should you take them up on it, well, that's up to you. What happens, though, from a legal standpoint, is if your employer decides to let you go before what your last day was going to be. So you give them notice, I'm going to be gone on this date, and your employer lets you go before then, well, that becomes a termination at that point, and you're going to be owed some severance. Now, the severance is going to be very limited because you were going to quit anyway at some point in the future. So it's probably going to end as of the day that you were going to quit. But yes, it becomes a termination. So, if they say, hey, you don't have to stay if you don't want to, you can decide if you want to or not. If you've decided you're staying and they let you go before that last date, they have to pay you until that last date is going to be anyway. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense, Trina. Any problems, issue, or concerns, you know what to do. Reach me through employmentlawyer.ca. You see that address on the screen? Good timing. Employmentlawyer.ca. All right, let's see. Continue with questions. Thank you for the questions, guys. Ask. Don't wait, by the way, till the end of the session. Every single time. I've been doing this now for years. Every single time I get 1 or 2 questions right at the end, but I don't get a chance to answer them. Why do that? Right? You have time. Ask them right now. You'll guarantee to get an answer. And right now, I'm going to do just that with Jimmy's question. Jimmy's joining us from YouTube. And Jimmy's question, or Jimmy says this. The company I worked for got bought out a month ago. The new company said my wage was capped out from my job title, so I got a new job instead. Am I entitled to something? Well, if you continued working, then you're not. They give you a different job if you accepted that job. Now, if in fact it's a very different job and you don't want it, that different job could be a constructive dismissal. So if you say, I don't want this job, it's not good, it's too hard, or it's a lower level position, that may be a constructive dismissal. But if you're accepting that job and continue to work, then no, they inherit your service. So you're not starting as a new employee, but there's nothing that's owed to you if you continue working. So again, not happy job with the job. If it's a negative job for you, you may be able to consider that to be a constructive dismissal and get severance, which also accounts for your time with the previous company. So you know what to do now. Of course, if that's what you want to do, you want to go that route, you reach out to me through employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. All right, next question, also from YouTube, MJL. MJL says, the company I have worked for since 2007 hired new staff and gave my work to them and have now temporarily laid me off due to shortage of work. My work was an obligation with WSIB. I was injured there. They said they don't need to keep me working there even with WSIB. Okay, so let's put the WSIB issue aside for a second. A company doesn't have a right to put you on a temporary layoff. That means that regardless of the reason, okay, WSIB doesn't matter. That layoff in the eyes of the law is a termination, meaning you don't have to sit at home and wait to see what happens. You can treat that as a termination right now and get severance. You've been there for about 15, 16 years. You could be looking at as much as 18 months severance. Okay, 18 months. That's a lot of severance that they owe you. So you can wait and see what happens and, wait months and maybe get a bit of EI. Or you can say, no, I want my full severance now and to move on. And that's a substantial amount. They do not have a right. An employer does not have a right to put you on a temporary layoff in most cases. Now, if in fact, depending on how long you've been accommodated through WSIB, they may have an obligation to employ you. So them putting you on a temporary layoff could also be a breach of workplace health and safety legislation. So there's a lot to discuss here. So what you need to do, MJL, is contact me ASAP, okay? Time is not your friend right now. So you need to contact me as soon as possible. You see that address right here below me, employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. Phone numbers there, email address there. It's all there. Reach out to me. But yeah, there could be substantial amounts owed to you. All right, MJ, looking forward to connecting with you. Thank you for that question. You see how easy it is to ask those questions. Next question right now comes from Donna. Donna has a follow-up. If they offer an enhanced lump sum, but only if I accept their offer as is, I would lose it if I go to litigation. My concern is the length of time to litigate. Why would you have to litigate? Donna, in the vast majority of cases, we don't even need to litigate. They get a letter from me, they make an offer, we respond, we negotiate, and it's done. It's as simple as that. So I wouldn't worry about it. It's easy to resolve these matters. It's not controversial. In most cases, we don't even need to litigate. So especially not simple matters like yours. So give us a call. Do not accept the offer unless they've offered you what you're owed. Think about it this way. If I owe you $100, you would expect me to pay you $100, right? If I said, yeah, instead of 100, I'm going to give you 30, but you better accept it. You'd say, no, why would I accept 30? You owe me 100. Well, it's the same thing here. If they owe you 6 months severance as an example, why would you accept less? And no, we don't have to litigate in the majority of cases. So, Donna, right now, I'm going to send you back to reach out to me through employmentlawyer.ca. All right, next question today comes from Jacob on Facebook. My employer isn't letting me take Canada Day off as a stat. I'm non-union, but it's a 365-day operation. So your best place to go to here is the Ministry of Labor, Jacob. You're in Ontario, so Ministry of Labor. They'll help you. They can even give a quick call to your employer and get that issue fixed. All right. So I think I am just new question came in. Again, those that are joining me, hey, I'm Lior Samfiru, the employment lawyer, here for you at your service to help you and ensure that you have answers to your employment law questions. You've been watching me do this for the last 15 minutes or so today. Well, I'm here for another 15 or so. Ask those questions right now. You have time. Make sure that when you turn off your computer, you know more than you did before. So ask the questions. Let's see. Debashis. Probably mispronounces it. I probably mispronounced it, but Debashis has our next question. I was let go in 2021 after 13 years. 3 months later, I was hired back for a temporary position for 3 months by a different division. I'm still in that temporary role for 2 years now. Do I ask for more severance? Okay, so I'm not sure. Will you let go? Because your severance is only paid to you if you're let go. You're still working there. If in fact they let you go now, they have to pay you severance that does account for the time you had previously. Okay, but I would also have to see what you signed previously. So this can be a bit kind of complicated and interesting. But generally speaking, because they hired you such a short time after you had left previously, they'd have to now account for your full time with the company. But keep in mind, even if you were just now a 2-year employee, even as a 2-year employee, you could easily be owed 4, 5, 6 months even of severance. So just as a 2-year employee. So that's why if you are let go, doesn't matter if they call it temporary. This is a good actually lesson for everyone. Doesn't matter if a company calls a position temporary. Doesn't matter if a company calls it a contract position. Bottom line is this: if you had a job and you lost that job, you're owed severance. I don't know that I could put it any more straightforward than this. People often ask me, do I get it in this circumstances? Do I get it in those circumstances? It's very simple. You had a job, you worked, now you don't have a job. You lost that job. Well, guess what? Severance has to be paid. And I'm going to tell you more now. Here's how you find out how much severance you're owed. Because you may be wondering, yeah, severance, but what is it, a day, a week, a month? What is it? Well, here's how you find out exactly how much severance you're owed. You grab your smartphone, your tablet, your desktop, doesn't matter, and you go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. You see that address right there, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Why do you go there? Well, because right there we have our severance calculator tool, right? Name, as the name suggests, very simple. It calculates your severance. So you go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca, use the severance calculator tool. You answer 3 questions: age, position, length of employment, and you're going to find out how much severance you are owed. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 24 months, maybe somewhere in between, okay? But you'll find out, you'll get an idea, you'll get an assessment, an estimate, if you will, of the severance that you are owed, okay? Always make that the very first place you go to if you lost your job. It's completely free, 100% free. 100% anonymous, no names, no phone numbers, no email addresses, no credit cards. It's just there for you. And if you want to, only if you want to, there's also a button there that you can press at the end to contact me if you want my help to get you the severance that you're owed. Okay? So pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. All right, great questions as always. You have some time. You got more than 10 minutes, 12 minutes, maybe even 13. So ask your question right now. Make sure that you get those answers. Again, I'm Lior Samfiru, the employment lawyer. All right, next question for us right now from Facebook. This is Sean. My hours have been cut after almost 2 decades in my role. As a result, they've also reduced my vacation time. As they say, it corresponds. Is it right? No, your vacation time is not reduced. Your vacation pay may be reduced because vacation pay is a percentage of your income. But that's not even the issue here. The issue here is that they don't really have a right to reduce your hours. Okay, you've been doing the same job or the same hours for 2 decades. That reduction is a constructive dismissal, unless it's a minimal reduction. If they reduced it from 40 hours to 39, yeah, it's not going to make you happy, but it's probably not a constructive dismissal. But if it's a more substantial reduction, yeah, of course it's a constructive dismissal. So you're owed severance. And the problem, by the way, with accepting this reduction is by accepting it, you've given them the right to do it again. So I just told you, right, that they can't reduce your pay. They don't have a right to. But if you let them get away with it, now they gain that right and they can do it a second, third, fourth time. So let's say they reduced your hours from 40 to 30 now. Bad, constructive dismissal, 100%. But you accept it, you continue working. Well, now next month, when they want to reduce you from 30 hours to 20 hours, you're not going to be able to do anything about it because you let it happen that first time. So whenever we're talking about changes, significant changes to your employment, changes to hours, changes to pay, demotions, anything like that, you have to remember that by accepting it, you've opened the door. You've now given the company the right to do things that otherwise it would not have a right to do. So very important to keep that in mind and not to let a company get away with that. All right. So in your situation, Sean, the issue here is not really vacation pay. They can reduce your vacation time. You get the vacation that you get, but vacation pay, because it's a percentage of the income that you earn, 4%, 5%, 6%, etc. So keep that in mind, but it's a constructive dismissal. All right, I'm Lior Samfiru. I'm going to continue answering questions. You got 10 minutes. Guys, ask your question right now. If you're watching, that's great. Asking is even better. Alan has our next question. After receiving approval to return to work from medical leave, HR informed me that they may be sending me for an assessment. I'm not sure what that entails or if they're allowed to ask for this. Can they refuse to let me return otherwise? Okay. So first of all, the company doesn't get to send you to an assessment. The only thing the company has to do is to follow what your doctor says. So if you're ready to come back to work and your company still has some questions about that, they can ask you to ask your doctor. So they want to make sure that you're able to do the job. You want to make sure that you're able to withstand the pressures of the job. That's a legitimate thing to be concerned about. They can ask your doctor. Okay. What they can't say is, no, before we bring you back to work, we're going to have an independent assessment. They don't get to do that. Okay. They can only even consider doing that if your doctor refuses to answer or provides inconsistent information. Maybe then they can say, well, we've tried to get answers from your doctor. We're not getting them, so we can look at an individual assessment. But generally speaking, your doctor is the person that matters. So talk to your doctor or tell them that, no, if you have questions, I'd be happy to get them from my doctor. Otherwise, I'm ready to come back to work. Don't do this independent assessment. I don't trust that, because the company is paying a doctor, and the doctor is going to be loyal to the company, arguably, right? Not to you. So I'm not too crazy about that at all. So same thing, by the way, happens if you're wanting to go on a leave. You give that doctor's note, you need to be on a leave. Company says, not so fast. I want to have an independent doctor evaluate you. No, they don't get to do that at all. If your doctor says you cannot work, you get to go off work. It's not up to the company. They don't get to say yes or no. They have to do what the doctor says. They don't get to question your doctor. And they also don't get to insist that you see someone else. Okay? Can't do that. Remember, the most powerful tool you have, if you're unable to work, if you're dealing with a disability leave, if you're coming back from a disability, that most powerful tool is your doctor. Okay? And that's where the question should be directed to, not to someone else. Hopefully that makes sense, Alan. But it doesn't sit right with me at all for the company to want to go and get an independent assessment. Not at all. Guys, I'm Lior Samfiru. You're listening to the Employment Law Q&A session with me. Everything I say would apply in Ontario, in BC, in Alberta. So right now you can get some questions answered. If you're in one of those provinces, by the way, I should have said right off the bat that everything you hear today, everything you hear me say at all, TV, radio, etc., only applies to non-union employees. Does not apply to unionized employees, okay? Only to non-union employees. All right, let's continue. Tyler has our next question. I'm being forced to quit and told I have a week to hand in my resignation. This was after a dispute with a customer. I don't believe I did anything wrong, but I'm not sure what my options are. Well, you do not quit, okay? If your company wants you gone, they're allowed to let you go, but they have to pay you severance. The only reason a company is going to say that I expect you to quit is because they're trying to avoid paying you severance. Because if you quit, then they don't pay you severance. So your answer should be, thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to continue working until you, employer, tell me otherwise. In the meantime, it's also fine to put in an email, so it's in writing, why you don't feel you did anything wrong, or to explain what happened with this customer. Actually, it's a really good idea that you do that. But do not quit. And this is an important lesson for everyone. If your employer says, I expect your resignation, I demand your resignation, you better give it to me, the answer is thanks, but no thanks. I'm not doing that. I'm going to continue working. Because number one, you want your severance. Number two, you want EI. If you resign, you don't get EI. EI can pay you for a year. Okay, so don't ever do that. If you're feeling under the gun, your employer's putting that pressure on you to resign, to quit, call me, okay? Before you do anything, okay? To reach me and my team, of course, employmentlawyer.ca. Can you see that address, employmentlawyer.ca? Donna has a follow-up question. After working 4.5 years, am I entitled to 6 months severance, even if I signed their employment letter stating 2 weeks notice if they terminate me? Again, I haven't seen what you signed, so I can't speculate. I'd have to see what you signed. Always a good idea not to sign anything, right, without me seeing it. Chances are whatever you sign does not limit you here, but again, unless I see the document, I can't say good, bad, does it do this or does it do that. So your next step, Donna, as I've said, you have to contact us for a consultation. We'll review that document. We'll assess exactly what you're owed. 6 months, which is probably what you're owed here, is probably a significant amount of money. You don't want to do anything to compromise that, right? So you contact us, employmentlawyer.ca, to get that. Now, the question that Tyler had asked previously about getting into a dispute with a customer raises another issue that I wanted to talk about briefly, and that is this idea of a termination for cause. So you've heard me talk often here today and most of my segments about severance, and you lose your job, you get severance. So the question becomes, well, do I always get severance if I lose my job, even if I did something really, really bad? So this brings up the idea of a termination for cause. The only time an employer can legally let you go and not have to pay you severance is if they have what we call just cause for termination. What does that mean? That means that the company can prove that you did something so bad, so terrible, that it's not possible to continue employing you. Okay? You've committed such a sin that you're deserving of the worst punishment. Because in the employment law world, a termination for cause is the worst punishment that an employer can impose. It's like the death penalty of the employment relationship. But that means that only the worst offenders get it. So that also means that maybe you did something wrong, but the fact that you did something wrong, that in itself does not mean that the company can let you go for cause without severance. Doing something wrong is not enough. We all make mistakes. We may even do some things that we regret, but that's not enough to be terminated for cause. For you to be terminated for cause, you would have had to do something really bad. You stole, you committed fraud, you hit someone, you sexually assaulted someone. Yes, you do those things, you'll be terminated for cause. You're not going to be owed severance. Nothing anyone can do, absolutely. But maybe, you said something you shouldn't have said, or you made a mistake on a work project, or maybe you were late a couple of times. None of those things are good things, right? But the fact that you did those things does not mean that it rises all the way to the cause. And every single day, no exceptions, I see situations where a company says, aha, you did something wrong, we're letting you go for cause, we're not paying you anything, when in fact it's not cause. That becomes a wrongful dismissal. Not only that, the company, just because you did something wrong, the company doesn't get a discount on the severance they have to pay you. Either there's cause and they don't have to pay you anything, or there's no cause and they have to pay you everything. There's no middle ground here. So unless you did something awful, if the company lets you go, you are owed not just some severance, you're owed your full severance. Of course, to connect with me, always easy to do, employmentlawyer.ca to help that. But I wanted to make those comments about termination for cause. Literally right before I got on this session, someone contacted me with that issue. They were late 3 times over the past month. Not saying that's a good thing. It's not. That's a long service employee, and that's not enough to be cause. So when they're let go, they're owed severance. All right. So important lesson there for everyone. Guys, that's the time that I have for today. Thank you very much for the fantastic questions, like always. Always a pleasure to be here and to answer them. I'll be back, of course, next week right here to talk to you more, to answer more questions, to help you more with your employment law issues. But if you need help now, don't wait until next week. Contact me right away and my team through employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. I'm Lior Samfiru, one of the founding partners of Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. I was here live. I'm going to stop being live in a moment. Thank you very much for all the questions, guys. We'll talk to you again very soon. Take care.